A Solomon Islands academic says the leaders of the Melanesian Spearhead Group member states made a mistake in granting Indonesia associate member status in the MSG. Tarcisius Kabutaulaka's comments come as another rift surfaces within the sub-regional group, this time between the leaders of Fiji and Solomon Islands over the Indonesia issue. The latest spat began with comments from Solomon Islands Deputy Prime Minister Manasseh Sogavare saying Fiji should not have forced other countries to accept Indonesia. Fiji's Defence Minister Ratu Inoke Kubuabola rubbished the claims. Mr Kabutaulaka, who is an associate professor at the University of Hawaii's Centre for Pacific Island Studies, told me since its inclusion, Indonesia has not been shy about suppressing the United Liberation Movement for West Papua, which has been granted observer status in the MSG and is seeking independence for the indigenous people of Papua from Indonesia.
With due respect to our leaders, in this case Ratu Inoke Kubuabola and Manasseh Sogavare and others, I think that they made a mistake when they admitted Indonesia into the MSG. And Sogavare was the Prime Minister, and they should have denied Indonesia that membership. I know that one of Indonesia's argument is that it has the largest Melanesian population. In fact, the Melanesian population in Indonesia is very small, first, and secondly, is the most oppressed and is often not represented by the Indonesian government in the way that Jakarta is implying. And so they made that mistake at the beginning when they admitted Indonesia. And Fiji was behind the admission of Indonesia. It was Fiji that sponsored Indonesia's membership of the MSG.
Right, and it's almost along those lines. It would seem that they've bitten off a little bit more than they can chew.
Yeah, and now I think the discussion should be. I know it's difficult diplomatically, but the discussion should be, how do we get rid of Indonesia? It is not an MSG country and should not be allowed. But at the same time, I suppose diplomats would be saying that, in order to have conversations with Indonesia about West Papua, we need to have them at the table. But you can have them at the table without them being member of the MSG. You can have conversations with Jakarta without allowing them into the MSG. And so how to get Indonesia out of the MSG is something that our leaders should talk about.
It would be akin to having France represent the FLNKS instead of the FLNKS.
That's right. Yeah, that's similar to that. I know that New Caledonia has been admitted to the Pacific Island Forum as well as French Polynesia, and that discussion came up in that this was in fact like admitting France into the Pacific Islands Forum. So the same thing with Indonesia. So Indonesia's argument is that it is the provinces in West Papua that are members of the governors of those provinces would attend as representatives at the Melanesian Spearhead Group. But these governments, at the provincial governments in West Papua, are representatives of Jakarta.
Yes, and the financial straits that the MSG finds itself in. There's been struggle at the Secretariat. We've had confirmation from the Indonesian embassy. I understand it's in Australia that they have been financing and supporting the Secretariat, purchasing vehicles and the like. That's another element to this, isn't it, in terms of bankrolling the MSG?
It is. Running a regional organization, or in this case a sub-regional organization, is expensive. And Indonesia has taken advantage of that. And I think that is partly a result of lack of planning on the part of our MSG countries. I would assume that Melanesian countries would have the funds to run an organization like this. It's not really that big. There is an organization in the Pacific that's self-funding, PNA, the Parties to the Nauru Agreement. Of course, that organization focuses on a particular resource, tuna, and uses that to fund itself. But there are creative ways of running regional organizations that would not hold us accountable to powers outside of the region that are putting money into these things.
Professor Tarcisius Kabutaulaka from the University of Hawaii.